Okay. Hey, first off, let me get off my chest. I have a whole bottle of wine myself, so if I sound a little off, it's because of that. But I've been watching this anime related to this elf. I knew about the manga. I just don't agree with the premise. I know why a lot of people think they can agree with it, but it doesn't make any logical sense to me or emotional sense to me. If I was an elf or any other living race that lives a couple thousands of years, hundreds of years, thousands of years without worrying about aging and dying from old age and stuff like that, there is absolutely no way I can believe that they would value life less or go extinct. If anything, they'll well outlive the human race. Because if you're attractive for over 1,000 years, then you're fertile. I say that's the fact. Because your sexual attraction, goes for your fertility. That is biology. And that's why why we age like we do. The more we age, we're actually not able to reproduce as well. That's a fact of life, whether you like it or not. And if you're an elf or any race that lives for centuries and you look gorgeous, you're more likely able to have kids. Even in the lore, you have elves that are several hundreds, even thousands of years that come up. They can have a baby with a human, another one that are kind. And my point is they can take their time in life. If anything, the younger generations of the elves or any long-living creatures in the race would live a decent amount of time to go, okay, I don't want to hang out with humans or this other race or this race because they live too short. You value them, you respect them, and you might even want to turn around and convince the younger generation of your kind to stay away from their kind because not out of prejudice reasons, but because you don't want them going through the heartache of going through several thousands of friends before they realize, might be a good idea to stay away from that race because they don't live that long. They will eventually outlive the human race because they can take their time. They can turn around and not have to worry. They're just as intelligent as humans. They obviously have physical capabilities or better because, if you maintain your youth for longer, that means you don't get back pain. You heal faster for longer. And you probably have a couple sets of teeth or a lot stronger teeth that can last for a lot more than humans can. Because humans only get 2 sets of teeth. And, have you ever heard of an elf that's using false teeth? I haven't. No. Basically, elves just have it going on for them. I never even heard of an elf getting a cavity. You got the magical capabilities and everything else. To me, logically, you would just not want to stay time with the race after a certain point in time that can't live as long as them. You look at it like having a cat or a dog. You love them, you see them as a part of the family. It hurts when they go, and you might go through so many pets because you outlive them all to a point where you don't want any more because you don't want that heartache anymore. I think that's how it will go. You're not going to go extinct because you're not reproducing, because you have all the time in the world to reproduce. Because you have more time than any other race to do so. I think the idea behind the story is sweet and it tries to have a deep meaning, but it's very wrong. If you can live as long as an elf, and it takes you hundreds of years to even age a single year, then most likely you're going to outlive every race out there. You're going to see the human race rise and fall in no time flat. There might be a time when the humans might live a couple hundreds of years if they evolve far enough or their medicine goes far enough. And you just look at that like, okay, great, the humans are catching up to us. We can bond with them more. Or they'll mix breed, where you have the half elves that can live just as long as the full elves. Okay, eventually, yeah, you might see that happen. But the humans will not outlast the elves for any means, just because, well, the elves can live longer, and they're good. If they're attractive for a very long period of time, they're more likely fertile for a very long period of time. So they got all the time in the world, and they're gonna have a greater understanding of life. And you can't say, well, you're gonna have less of like a means to want to live because you live for so long. Because in my experience, and many others, watching others, older people, the longer you live, the more you value life. I'm 32 years old this month, on the 28th. That's when I turned 32. And I've valued more life as I've gotten older compared to my younger days. I've always valued life. Don't get me wrong. But I realize more deeply as time has passed on, especially the last few years, that I value life more as I have gotten older than anything else. And yes, long living race like the elves and everything, you may think, oh well, they might not value it as much because they live for so long because of their youth and everything, but they still get sick. They still get eaten by monsters, killed by another elf or a human or something like that. So it's not like they wouldn't have an understanding the same amount of time a human would have when it comes to life and death. And that's my point, is they would actually value life a lot more than we do, because as time fast forward, they would have those abundance of experience. They would have gone through the same hardships, but they would know they wouldn't have to rush through it. We, as humans, have to rush through life in order to get to where we want, because we know our time is limited. But if you're like an elf, or a dragonoid, a dwarf, whatever other race that lives several hundreds of years longer than a human, then you're going to know that you're going to value life because you have that knowledge that you're going to outlive some other races. You're going to outlive some animals. You're going to outlive some pets. You're going to have that time to experience things that you would not want to experience. Hang on, that freaking Crunchyroll wanted to exit out. I ain't letting that happen. But what I'm basically saying is the anime's premise would be wrong, and a lot of anime have turned around and say, well, elves don't value, they're very depressed, they don't want to get too close, and they jump round from mate to mate, and they don't get too serious relationships because of they'll outlive whoever they're in a relationship. That's some stupid way of thinking, because in reality, you're going to value the relationships more when you get older. Even if you're physically younger for longer, they're not going to look at it like I'm young and a couple hundred years old, but to me, I'm still like a teenager. No, because their mental age will grow. Their physical age may not, but their maturity will grow through experiences. And yes, they may not want to do it with a human or get in a relationship with a human or any other race that doesn't live as long. But that just means that they won't have any preference with that race after a certain point of age. At a certain point in age, they're going to want to focus more on their own kind or another race that can live as long as them, or is not longer. And the reason why they would do that is because they know they can have that meaning for a lot longer. Relationships will matter more as time progresses, because that's true even for the human race. What the humans don't realize is if they pay attention, yes, they start to realize, time passes on and relationships actually tend to matter more because you want to have kids, you want to have this, and you don't realize how short life is. Yes, you could say, oh, well, they have long living lives and go, so they can actually, not value it as much and go ahead and not get that deeper meaning because they don't have that realization. No, they would. Because if they live with mortal races or even animals that don't live as long as them, the experiences alone, even actually other races that live just as long as them, they would experience it because they're still not immortal. They might die from sickness. They might die from being eaten by some kind of monster in their fantasy world, or another one taking, because maybe there's an serial killer out there. You never know. Either way, they get that experience. It's going to be in their mind. Some might take a little longer, but it's going to be the same amount of time that it takes for a human to realize, shit, I need to get my life together because I don't really have as much time as I think. But the only difference is they're not going to think, oh, well, I don't have much time. They're going to think, well, I've lived this long and I need to mature up, not because I have less time, but because I don't want to deal with the suffering or anything anymore. You get tired of dealing with what's nonsense. You get tired of dealing with pain and suffering. So you turn around, you avoid, you start to learn because you're forced to learn to not deal with the things you know is going to hurt you or bore you or anything like that. And you won't get bored of life because you simply exist for longer. No, you will find new things, you will create new things, and things will just get exciting and it'll change constantly, and you will learn to adapt and roll with the changes as it does, because it does to us even at our young age as humans. So, this is an opinion piece. It's going a lot longer than I intended to, but my point is, I don't agree with the messaging that this is bringing, because in reality, if I was a long-living race, I would value life more. I know that our race wouldn't go extinct. It would be the human race that goes extinct, the narcissistic human race that sees themselves, that they value themselves so much that they think every other race would turn around and cry and go extinct because they're not living as long. That makes no sense. I know you want to say it makes sense. You may want to think, project yourself in there, but you can't with these immortal race, and because they just outlive and outdo us by so much. They wouldn't be able to compare like us. They would understand us because they live with us, but we wouldn't understand them because we can't be everlasting like them in the sense of physical form until we evolve to that point. Alright. Opinion done. Agree, disagree. Love to hear comments about it, what your guys' opinions on this about. Anyway, have a good night or morning. It's 6 o'clock in the morning here. I haven't went to bed yet.